replicated, it meant that the story of history it told was important. They wanted to carry it forward for generations to come. Now, originally this park was going to be a whole village, but World War II happened and they only built one park house. But we'll go in it today. And it's right on the water. It's really a pretty park. I hope you'll enjoy it. Now, when we became a state in 1959, the Forest Service turned this park over to the state of Alaska. So it is a state park today. It is on the National Historic Register. Now, these two trading posts in front here were originally from Haida villages. And they were both what's called a memorial pole. So another use for totem poles to honor the dead. Kind of like a really nice grave marker, gravestone. This one from the Eagle moiety. He was probably a pretty important person to have this mortuary pole. And that design on front was called a Chilcot blanket. The original one was very ornate. It had stone and metal all inlaid in it. But this one's just painted to show that design from the original one. So he was probably a fairly high-ranking person in the Eagle moiety to have that memorial pole. Come look at this. It's spelled with, spelled T-S, the T is silent. Just like Clinton. Yeah, close enough. Just like Clinton, it's also spelled with the T, but it's pronounced Clinton. So this is called Thunderbird on Whale, this pole. That was two of their plans, and that's kind of what's carved there. Now this was actually a mortuary pole originally. Now mortuary pole was a memorial pole, but they would actually hollow out a back section, place a box of the deceased person's cremated ashes right inside the pole, and then seal it over. So a mortuary pole actually had the ashes interred in the pole. Now the natives did believe in magic and mythology. They'd make up stories to explain things in nature. For example, the thunderbird. They believed this big mythological bird was so big it could grab whales right out of the ocean. It carried up the mountaintops where it could devour it. And that's how they explained finding those whale bones in the mountains. It's thunderbirds. They did find whale bones in the mountains, but the whale bones left from the Ice Age thousands of years ago, but they didn't know that. They believed the thunderbird, when it flapped those big wings, that's what made thunder. When it blinked its eyes, lightning. So they also did carve poles to explain things. Maybe pass teachings on to their children, commemorative events. So we had what was called story and commemorative poles. Okay, let's go do a walk in our beautiful room.
Es una cosa como una leyenda urbana.
Rainforest na to.
Pine tree. Ano na?
Yeah.
Pine tree.
Mm-hmm.
Ang ginagawa mo.
Pag nakita mo sa TV na walang ka lang ng gana eh. Mabag ka pa, magbuntingin sa TV.
Para makita ko yung kinis-kinis sa mga sopo yung comida. No? Ama itong dami.
It's beautiful here. So it makes it so everybody can hear me better. Okay. So the main forest, somebody's asking about the trees. The main trees we have in our forest, about 50% are hemlock trees. These are little hemlocks here. Most of these were hemlocks that we walked by. They have very soft, flat, kind of light green needles. And then about 20% is Sitka spruce. That is our state tree. They grow very straight and tall. They have needles as well. Their needles go all the way around the branch. So these are flat. And we will see that there's a place up here where there's one of each kind of tree growing right together. You can easily see the different kinds of needles low. So I'll point that out. And then we have cedar trees. Western red cedar and yellow cedar. Cedar. And they have needles as well. Their needles are kind of in a fan-like shape, very flat, droopy. But I'll point those out as well. And the western red cedar, the natives called it the tree of life. They used every part of that tree. That's what they carved their totem poles out of. It decays from the inside out. So they would, first they'd strip the bark off it. They'd strip the bark, they strip it into very fine strips, and that's what the ladies used to weave with. They used the bark of the western red cedar, and they wove with their hands. Imagine how hard that would be. They could make watertight baskets, they wove so well. They would make hats, sleeping mats, sails for their canoes. The inside of the bark a little softer, they even made baby diapers out of the bark of the western red cedar. And they would take all the bark off cut down trees, but they could even take about 30% of the bark off of a standing living tree without killing it. And then it would rejuvenate itself over the next many decades. And then they would hollow it out and carve their dugout canoe all out of one log. And then the outside part was their totem pole part. Now, totem poles were carved from just one log, carved line flat from one log, unless it had beaks, wings, or fins. Then those were separate pieces. They would kind of carve a hole, kind of like a peg in the hole. And once that totem pole was put out in our rainforest, the wood kind of swells and it would hold those appendages in place. They didn't ever have to use dowels or screws or anything like that. But it'd be one big log, except for the beaks, the wings, and the fins. And sometimes there's something on the top that's separate. Now our main leafy deciduous tree in our forest is the red alder. They carved out of the red alder as well. It is a less oily wood. They would carve their eating utensils, their bowls, spoons, ladles, out of the red alder because you could taste your food and not the wood you were eating off of. Now I'd like to stop here because we don't have a lot of topsoil in our forest. So it's just amazing that we have a forest. The roots go down, they hit the rock, they go out sideways. But you can see a lot of the roots. And so we have a lot of trees that get blown over when we get those winds. And then we have trees that'll grow out of fallen over trees and out of old stumps. You can see it here. I'm behind you here. We call them nursing trees. They nurse off the nutrients from those fallen over trees and those old stumps. And it's pretty much sucked all the nutrients out of this stump. But it's really amazing in the rainforest to see the natural ecology of things. So let's go see some more totem poles.
Kapanso.
Pero es un monolito. Ano, con un solo tronco.
This is a little cedar tree. See how
Cedar.
they're
Oh, yeah.
flat, like a fan,
Yeah.
kind of. That's a very small cedar tree. This is a hemlock tree. Soft needles, but flat.
Dalawang klase pala yun.
Yep. Yes, yes.
Ito, hemlock ito.
And there's a good spot over there I'll point out as well. Yeah, that one's so small you can't imagine carving it because it doesn't have a stump. I mean, it's not very big at all. It's just very little. Okay, these next several poles I'm going to tell you about were from Tlingit villages. Now you'll notice the Tlingits didn't always carve the whole pole if you look back there. Lots of blank space on those poles. That was just their style. It's not incomplete. They just believed that the entire was something of a blank space. They held it. And they do never go back and carve anything else on it. So whenever you see blank space on a pole, you know it was from the Tlingit tribe. Now this pole is called Manny and Bear. And it was also a memorial pole. Now there's a story that goes with this one. The chief of the Bear clan had gone out fishing one day and he'd gone into Killer Whale territory by mistake. And they captured him and said they were going to make him their indentured servant. And he did not want to become their slave. So he fought them to try to get away and he was killed. So they carved this memorial pole in his honor. The Bear clan then demanded restitution from the Killer Whale clan for killing their chief. And the Killer Whale clan refused. They said, no, he was trespassing in our waters. They were very territorial and protective of their fishing waters. So the Bear clan came up with a plan. They decided to invite the Killer Whale clan to their clan house to a party called a potlatch. Now, a potlatch was a big gift-giving party, usually held to celebrate something. A birth, a death, a wedding, a new chief, a special visitor, something they were celebrating. One clan would invite other clans to their clan house. They would prepare for months in advance because you had to feed all these people, maybe put them up overnight. During the potlatch, you'd be singing, dancing, storytelling, gambling, eating. Oftentimes, they raised a totem pole for the occasion. And then the host clan gave gifts to everybody. They basically gave their wealth away. It was considered a great honor to do that. Now, there was one little catch. If you're a high-ranking person in attendance and received all these gifts, you were expected to reciprocate in the next few years when you could afford it by throwing a potlatch, inviting that host clan to your potlatch, and giving them gifts, maybe even better gifts. It's kind of how they spread the wealth around. Now, in the old days, these potlatches lasted about 4 days to 2 weeks. They do still hold them today. I've been invited to one. Usually they're just a weekend now. They do still hold them. So the Bear clan invited the Killer Whale clan to a potlatch. The Killer Whale clan came expecting to maybe have a good time. When they got inside, the Bear clan again demanded restitution for killing their chief. And again, they refused. They said, no, he was trespassing. Well, the Bear clan started to fight them, and a couple of them were killed. Well, that got their attention very quickly. So something good did come out of it since they were gathered there. They did negotiate new trespassing laws, so this unfortunate incidences would not happen again. But that is why the teeth are carved in the bear hat. That means that we're a fierce clan, they've gotten their retribution, and they were not to be taken lightly. And there are black killer whales painted around the brim. So the legend of Mandy and Bear Hat. Okay.